we'll get to welcome into the studio here, Justin Lukasewicz.
Mm-hmm.
I've said your name once. I am not going to say it again. I had to practice.
It's a easy one.
Yeah. Are there any consonants not in your name?
I think there isn't a K.
Okay.
Yeah. Nope, there is. There's totally a K.
We are excited to have you here. I mean, you do a lot of things in the community, a lot of different roles, but today we really wanted to focus on something which kind of surprised me we never actually talked about, which is the Tucson Improv Movement.
Yeah.
Otherwise known as TIM.
Yes.
You've been a part of that for some time now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So started TIM in 2012. So I started doing improv in 2009, but I was living in North Carolina at the time. And when I moved back to Tucson, at the moment, there wasn't any improv theater in town. So I was like, hey, we need kind of improv. We need, this long form version of improv that I'd like to bring. So just kind of let's teach a class and let's see if people want to do it. And if they do, we'll keep going. And here we are 13 years later. 2012.
2012. Okay. Yeah. So let's unpack this a little bit. First of all, just briefly, I think most people have a concept of it. What is improv? What does that really refer to?
Yeah. So most people's reference point is whose line is it anyway?
Okay.
Seen it?
Seen it.
Perfect. So that's short form improv. So we get a suggestion from the audience and you play like a quick game, new choice, right? We're doing a scene and someone yells new choice and you got to change the last line of dialogue.
Where the scores don't matter and the points are made up.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And what we do a little bit of that, but what we mainly focus on is what we call long form improv. So we get input from the audience or from a person for the shows. And then we utilize that to build comedy scenes for a longer period of time, like 15, 20, 30, 40 minutes.
Wow. So that does take a little bit of a skill set. Is there continuity through those 30 minutes or are you just randomly going off in all kinds of different directions?
Depends on the show and the format that they're running.
Okay.
So we had a show back in the day that it was called Your Favorite Movie Improvised. So they would get a movie from the audience, somebody's favorite movie, and then they would improvise that movie in about 35 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
bring that back. Right. I don't like to go see that.
Yeah.
So you got an improv. You're in North Carolina, which I understood. I just talked to someone from Brooklyn and they said, oh, there's this little triangle around North Carolina. Or there's like a big improv center there. Mm-hmm. So you're in this hub of improv and you decide I'm going to go on my own, or why did you leave?
Yeah, so I was here for grad school at the U of A.
Okay.
And then I moved to North Carolina for work. I was there for about 4 years for work. So I didn't go there for improv. I went there for a job, but was kind of just like, hey, what's my hobby going to be now that school is over? And I always wanted to do improv. Me and my brother used to watch Whose Line Is It Anyway? Mm-hmm. And like try to do the games. We had no clue what we were doing, so it was always bad, very bad. But I was like, oh, I would want to try that one day. That would be a fun thing to try. So I kind of just stumbled into a theater, and a lot of the instructors there were from Chicago, which is kind of back in the day was like the hub for improv in the U.S.
Second City, is that?
Yes.
Is that part of that, or is that a different kind of?
Yeah. Second City, Improv Olympic is there. So there's a couple, at that point in time, people who are going to SNL from the improv side were really coming from Chicago. So it was just kind of cool that people that had trained there were then moved back to North Carolina, and I got to learn under those people.
So then what ended up getting you back here?
So a job came open at the U of A, and I just wanted to be back in Tucson. I was here for 2 years for grad school and kind of fell in love with the city. But when you're in grad school, you don't really get time to actually do anything. I worked at the U of A during grad school, and I went to school, and then I moved out of town, and I was like, I feel like there was a lot of things I didn't get to do in Tucson.
Yeah, what is there? Well, there's a campus.
Yeah.
I'm familiar with the campus. Outside of the campus, I think there's something.
Yeah. I went to Bison Witches. I went to the street fair. So I had some context.
Good. That's you got some reference points there, and that draws you back. The Bison Witches. You're like, I've got to get back and get me some of them Bison Witches.
Yeah.
So you had mentioned you stumbled into improv. Mm-hmm. It seems to me that when I talk to people, that's a lot of how they get into improv. They have a sense of what it is.
Yeah.
They don't really have a lot of, I don't want to say ambition, but they don't have a lot of sort of drive to be great at improv. They just want to kind of get a sense of what it is, and then they go to a class.
Yeah.
And then they get sucked into what some people call the cult, and then then they're stuck there forever.
Yeah, exactly. Once you're in it, you have to stay. You're not allowed to leave.
But no, I mean, people get into this for lots of different reasons.
Yes.
You do on one of your side gigs, if we can mention it as side gigs, but one of the things you do besides improv is you help develop Tucson leadership through Greater Tucson Leadership. And I would imagine some of those improv skills are sought after by people that might be going into politics or things of that nature.
Yeah. I think that when I talk about like leadership and improv, that the connections are really strong. With improv, we're trying to train ourselves to be in the moment. We're training to like listen to what other people say, respond directly to what they said to you. How am I going to make this thing work that we're doing right now? So all of those like skill sets are really like leadership philosophies. I think improv is a life philosophy, is a leadership philosophy. So I think that even though they seem very different, they are very connected. Yeah.
And do people recognize that and they say, hey, I want to get into leadership, so I'm going to go talk about random things from an audience? Or I mean, how does someone get from improv to leadership, or do they just know this going in?
I think that, so we offer classes at Tucson Improv Movement, and I think people come to that class for very different reasons. Sometimes people just want to make some friends. They're like, be nice to meet some people. Right. And
I'm in grad school. I can't really, I need to get out and do something.
Right. There might be nice people here who are going to laugh with me. So some people come, for friendship. Some people come for, work or kind of all those like transitory skills. Some people come because they're, in the performance arts in some way, and they want to like add this to their repertoire. Or they're like, hey, I do stand up, or I do storytelling. And I want to be able to like improvise a little bit better if the need arises. And some people come because they're like, hey, I've seen improv. I want to perform here and do like a performance art. And that's why they join the class. It's interesting. When I started like in 2009, improv was very like mysterious, I would say, or just not as well known. But I would say by now in 2025, it's kind of like corporate, like yes and, the philosophy of improv has kind of become a corporate catchphrase.
That's what happens with cults.
Yeah, exactly.
Their leaders spread out into the world and take those philosophies other places.
Yep.
And you perform at you have your own theater.
Yes.
So you're not like vagabonds. You have a place where you hang out.
Yeah. So we're at 404 East 9th Street, which is next to Rebel Wine Bar. Or diagonal from the shanty. That's kind of our two signposts for people. But yeah, we have a.
Do you think the shanty's like, we're right across the street from improv? Do you think that's how they get their location?
Yeah, that's what they tell everybody. They're like, oh, you want to go in the shanty diagonal from Tucson Improv Movement? I love that. So those are two signposts, and we have a 40-seat theater there, and it's multi-use, so we can do the classes, we can do the shows. So kind of everything really happens out of that hub.
And, one thing that's nice for people like me that live downtown is it's right next to a streetcar stop. So literally you hop off the streetcar stop and it's like 20 feet or so into the improv movement.
I say it's about 25 steps from 4th Avenue or the streetcar stop. So.
And you do, obviously you do the classes and you do a lot of performances. Mm-hmm. Like, do you do performance? Is there something going on every night, or how often is there something for the public to tap into?
Yeah, we do shows every Friday and Saturday at 6:30, 7:30, and 9. So any Friday or Saturday night, there's options for people to come and hang out with us and, watch people make things up and be funny most of the time.
6:30, 7:30, and 9. So is it the same group of actors that are doing all three shows?
No, each show has a little bit of a different feel to it. Depending on what's happening at the time.
Okay.
So like our Friday night schedule is kind of, we have a jam. So if anybody wants to just come and try out improv, get on the stage and give it a whirl, it's kind of like open mic for improv. So that's at 6:30 and that's free and open to the public. The 7:30 show is the Soapbox, which is our flagship show where somebody comes and tells stories. We use that to improvise off their stories.
I can say I've been a part of that, and I told a story, and then a group of people on stage took that story and relived it in a way that I don't remember, but it was much more entertaining.
Good. That's the
goal. So that was a lot of fun. And I and for me, it was also fun because I invited a group of people that knew me.
Yeah.
And so to hear the story and then see it portrayed, and through the improv acting, it was like, yeah, that's pretty damn funny.
Yeah.
So
it's really fun because people, when they tell stories, are like, I'd never thought that you would do that thing,
right.
Or like, I never thought that would happen based off of what I said. And sometimes they're like, that was pretty spot on. You hit that pretty correctly.
A little scary. So then you do the jam and then the soapbox. That's so that's every Friday. Every Friday at 7:30.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. And then at 9:00 we do stand-up or sketch. So we have different stand-up type shows that go, and none of them are really like a straight stand-up show. We have a show where we have a stand-up come in and they do a set, and then the improvisers take their set list and do improv off of it. Or
oh wow,
we have a show where stand-up folks do improv and our improvisers do stand-up, called Improv versus Stand-up. So they all have a little bit of a fun twist to them.
Okay. Is there like a general website so I could get a sense of like what's coming? And
yeah, TucsonImprov.com. And if you kind of scroll on that page in the middle, it kind of has this week's show. And if you scroll to the bottom, there's a calendar, and you could see usually about a month to 2 months in advance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't realize there was, I guess it makes sense, but there's crossover between stand up and improv. It's similar skill sets, but they're different, right? I mean, one's very reactionary and one is very sort of like one, like you create your moment, and the other one, you just sort of react to the moment.
Yes. Yeah. They're like the same and opposite of each other. So like in stand-up, a lot of times it's about like telling a joke, setting up a punchline.
Mm-hmm.
Where in improv, a lot of the funny comes from the connections that are built between the characters on the stage. But I always tell people that like holistically, the way that you get to funny is the same. So we're looking for contrast. We're looking for like taking a piece of regular life and like heightening it out or blowing it up to be like, isn't it weird that we all do XYZ? So like the skills of how you get to funny are similar, but like the strategies between the two are like a little bit different.
Because when I saw the ad for stand up versus improv, I thought it was like a battle. I thought the people were throwing down like, you improv people, you get out of comedy. We're the stand ups. We make them funny.
Yeah.
But you get along pretty well.
Yeah. It's interesting because I feel like a lot of times stand up sometimes are like, it's a darker world that we live in, where the improvisers are like, yes, and we will have fun together. So sometimes there's a little bit of like animosity, not animosity, but like our way is better or this way is better. But there's a lot of people who do both things. And I think that like refining your skill set in a bigger way helps. If you're going to focus on one, having the knowledge of the other one is very helpful.
Well, and as this airs, obviously we're recording in advance, so the air date is going to be May 18th, which means if you're listening to this, then you have a really interesting event coming up in just a couple of weeks then.
Yes. On May 30th and 31st, we're going to do our annual Improvathon, where we're going to improvise nonstop for 28 hours.
Why 28?
Because it works out that way in the
schedule.
It was like 24, but if we do 24, then it would like stop at 6:00 on a Saturday. So we kind of go through the normal show times on Saturday.
Got it. So you start at 6:00 on Friday, goes through 10:00
on Saturday.
You do your normal 6, 7:30 and 9.
Yeah.
And is it? I mean, it's literally 28 hours. So at 2 a.m, Saturday morning, someone's
looking for something to do. They could come down to the improv theater and watch about 7 to 8 people doing something at 3, 4, 5 in the morning.
And is this the same? I mean, it can't be one group that does this for
no.
Like they're not like Jerry Lewis. They're not
no
out there with their tuxedo ties off and like, come on, one more for the kids.
They might be at that point in the morning. No, the event features a lot of the shows at the theater, and we have about 94 performing company members.
Wow.
Yeah. So over that 28 hours, like everybody is performing basically at some point. But we do have an overnight team. So there is a team of people who brave the 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. shift. Yeah. So it's usually like a group of 8, and they say, we want to like do this thing.
And I don't want to be like, I don't want to be like a comedian and be all dark and negative, but at 3 a.m., do people come out? Is this a thing?
No. It would be wonderful if it was. Like, I would love to see that. Usually in the past, we've had like a couple people around, or somebody's friend who's performing who's like, yeah, I'll come with my blanket and kind of lay in the crowd. 1 year we had somebody who was like a nurse and they worked the second shift or the third shift or whatever. And they were like, there's never anything happening when I'm done with work. Yeah.
Right. They get off work and there's never something to do. And there you go.
Yeah. They came and they sat for like 2 hours and just took it all in and enjoyed it. So
good seats then.
Yeah.
Good seats between 3 and 5 a.m.
Anywhere you want. There's 41 and you can choose any of them.
And I know this is the answer to this question in advance, but if there's not an audience, you're still performing, right? Because it's about the performing, not really the performance.
Yeah. Yeah. It's about the doing of the thing.
Yeah.
And it's really fun weekend. And I would say that like over the weekend, we have a ton of audience that comes in and out.
Sure.
There's a bunch of different show blocks that feature different things. You could come, we have a family hour in the afternoon on Saturday. There's some stand-up blocks.
Oh, I didn't really think about that. Yeah. Because you definitely have at the later shows that I've been to, there's some language issues that might not be family friendly. So you do carve out some time then for a family special.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So from like 10 to about 1, there are 3 different shows and they're all kid friendly, family fun. So it's a fun way to bring the kids out and kind of see some improv.
So then kind of as we're wrapping up here, the next thing for me is, just asking for a friend.
Mm-hmm.
If someone wanted to get involved, did they just show up to the jam or do they go to how does someone, if they want to try improv from the actor side?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of opportunity, like lots of entry points. Well, maybe like 2 or 3 entry points. I say lots.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
But the jam, Friday night at 6:30, it's like a fun environment. And it's curated, so it's not just like wacky town. Like we have a person there that curates the experience. So it's, like controlled in a way that you get to kind of come and just try it out if you want to try it out. But if people are interested in improv, the best thing is to just like hop in an improv 101 class. 6 weeks of your life, one night a week for 2.5 hours. And, if you get to the end of that and you're like, this wasn't for me, it was 6 weeks. If you get to the end, you're like, wow, my life is transformed, which could happen.
Then here's your toga and
right. Here's some juice to drink and, join the fun.
Welcome, brother.
Exactly.
Well, Justin, I really appreciate you taking the time here. I know we could spend a lot more time talking about some of the other things you do in our community. So I appreciate your emphasis on making Tucson a better place. But I also really wanted to highlight the Tucson Improv Movement and appreciate you coming in to do that.
Yeah, thank you so much. And come out and be silly with us and have a good time.